Hello everybody, it's Teresa here from South East London. I hope you're all well. I can't read out any names because, as I explained before, I don't get a list of the names anymore. So I'd just like to say a big welcome to all the new subbies, both on this channel and also on Facebook as well. The numbers are growing now and it's really nice to see. But anyway, hello to you all. This project is based around my visit to Moor Street Station in Birmingham, where I had afternoon tea with my daughter. It was a surprise. I love Birmingham anyway and had to go up there. It's only 3 hours away and I had to go there, but my daughter had arranged an afternoon tea in the very old station of Moor Street, and it's absolutely wonderful. But some of you, those who are in the Facebook group, will know the photograph I'm talking about, and hopefully I'll be able to stick it up here as well when I come to edit this. And as if by magic, here it is. Notice the shapes and the lines. We're actually sitting inside. This is inside, and there's the open door there, and we're looking out, and we're looking at all these shapes here. Okay, so that is the inspiration, and from that I've got to this. So all my pens are falling out. I got from this notebook and holder and pen holder. I do quite a bit of sketching, so I'm always ready to have a new notebook. So pockets, that's it, obviously the inside, pen holders, notebook pockets is lined, but that is the outside, and that the inspiration comes from that. So this is a printout of the photograph of Moor Street Station. Now from here I decided to enlarge from that piece just across there. If I can find my ruler, let's have that. From there, just this piece here, and I enlarged it, so there's that piece there, and I'm going to combine, or try to combine, the contrasting sizes. Now don't forget about our design principles, large against small. I think I might have a little bit of trouble getting these both in at the same time. Now this will form the basis of the design, and I shall add to it these. So I'm going to pop that to one side at the moment, but I know at this stage that I'd like to keep some of these big windows. I love these big windows, but I also love this here because we have the large shape here against the smaller shapes here. And go back to this one, the printout just as the photograph is here, and I'm going to cut this into 4 and I'm going to rearrange it. Right, now with my scissors, my trusty scissors here, and I should play around with these for a while. So we get back to this one here. Let's pull that down. So we're back now to the enlarged photograph, and I have 4 pieces here where I've quartered the original photograph. That's nice. I like that. Oh, I like that bit. Oh, look at that lady there. I wonder if that's any of you watching this. Okay, I'll put my finger there so you're not identified. Now from here I'm just going to play around, and we're looking for shapes. We're looking for, no, I like this as well. I like this because that is a contrasting shape. It's the same shape, only our design elements are telling us, yeah, this is good, because we have the contrast here. We have the large against the small. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to stick that on one side. Need to get that in some way. We also have this. Now I also like this because once again we have the shapes here. We have the large, almost a triangle there, and we have the smaller one there. Now the one I'm not too keen on is this, and I'm not too keen on this part because I'll turn that over. I'm not too keen on that part because this bit here I think is very bland. That is very plain. It's not really saying anything. The shapes are, yeah, they're big, but to me that's not really saying anything. It isn't like this, full of shapes, sort of active. Yeah, I'm going to stick that. I'm not, that makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, so I'm popping that to one side. Now I think I like this, but once again I do like this bit here. I do like that, the way it's crisscrossing. Obviously I'd have to remove the subject there. Yeah, for the time being I'm popping that away as well. Now, so I'm going to play with these two. I'm going to try and rearrange these to see where I can. I like that effect. I do like that. I'd like to keep this, and I like this slight curve here because that contrasts with the straight. You see the straight, the two opposites there. So we have a slight curve here against all these angles, all this straightness. So I'd like to use this. So now this is the original Moorgate, sorry, not Moorgate, Moor Street photograph, and it's now been turned into this. Okay, so all the shapes have been taken from here. That was our inspiration, all the shapes. I played around with all these and I've cut pieces out from some. These are the odds and ends, and from this one with the lady I took that nice band across the top here, and I think it was like this. Yeah, there's the lady here, and it was that band of windows there. If you can see that, I've taken that off and I've used that, and there it is. It's missing from this one for the black and white design that I was working on. So I've come up with this by playing around and moving around. Just going to snip that off there. So this is by no means finished at the moment. Now I have a collection of windows here, and then you can decide on what shape you want. Do you want a square? I want a larger one than that. And then you can move this around and come up with the area that, oh, see, I go back to this again. Go back to this, but I like that. Perhaps I need a bigger frame. Oh, well, there's not much missing from that. It's almost the same size, isn't it? So I've decided on this window like this. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to fold over this part here, and I'm going to cut the end bit off because I think I might need to use that piece. So this is what I have at the moment. It's going to be like this. I could just straighten that up a little bit at the edge there and pop that down, and you'll get an idea. So that is how it's looking at the moment. I've simplified the positive shape here. Alright, now I've cut this out, and the positive shape is the solid shape, the big solid shape here, against the negative shapes in between. So I've cut this out from another one, and let me place this right. That goes around there. So that is my positive shape. Now when you do this, be careful when you cut out the negative shapes, because you might need them. So when you do cut these out, cut them out with a fine sharp pair of scissors, very very carefully, and put the shapes, the negative shapes, to one side, just in case you need them. And I know that I will possibly need these shapes later on. Now from there I went back to here, and I've cut out calico larger with a border around this. So the sewing finishes here, and as usual I have interfaced it with, that's iron on, but I've left that so you can see it. You can see that interfacing there, interfacing between the background and the calico, ironed, pinned, and then tacked around here, around the edge, to hold them together. Now I'm not showing you tacking because you all know about tacking now. Now after that was done, I then placed that where I wanted it, and I want it in the center, so I've got this nice border. I pinned that in place, and I I turned that over actually. I turned it over, and then I pinned it on the back like this, and I very carefully just drew round it, holding it down as I went, and drew round it, and I ended up with the pen mark here on the back. Now it doesn't matter that that's on the back, and it's not thick enough to be pulled through to the front, so just very gentle. Now why I did that, it's so I could then remove this, which was quite stiff by now, and I did the tacking this way. I did the tacking on the back, small little stitches on the back, which gave me this really nice line all the way around. You might not want to do your tacking like that, it's entirely up to you how you do your tacking, but I did do that from the back on the pen line. So the next thing I'm going to do is to work out now what fabric I want the main shape in. Now what I will do, all this the shapes that I do use, like these, any shapes I do use, I will interface the fabric first. Little scraps of fabric, I'll interface them first, and then I'll cut them out, because it makes it so much easier to interface the back. Not all of it, only about the amount you need. So just interface a little part here, then you turn that over and place your pattern piece there, and then cut around it, and then you've cut it out already interfaced, and it's just easier. It's when you're working with small pieces that fray, it's easier to do it that way. So getting back to this, I'm now going to work out what fabric I want to cut this out in. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time now working out what fabric will look nice in that center shape, because that center shape will be on show. You'll be able to see the center shape, so it's quite important to get that right, that colour and that texture right. The rest will possibly be covered up, but this won't at the moment. But as we all know, every design, every piece of work is a progression of an idea. So we start off with one thing and could end up with something entirely different, and it's actually going that way now. So what I did, I went to my rag bag box and I chose a lot of white, because as I said, I want to keep it white, but different whites, different textures, so they can actually be seen on the background white. These are the whites I'm going to use. A little bit of maybe gold, I'm not sure, silver. So I'm going to stick those to one side now. That's a nice piece. It's not actually white, it's beige, but hey ho, might need that. So I'll pop those back there. So this is how far I've got at the moment. I've interfaced all the pieces like I said I was going to do. I've stuck to the pale colours. I fancied using a little bit of blingy stuff, because the last project didn't use any, and I just fancy this being totally different. The sequins on this piece were already attached. On a couple of these, like this one, I cut two pieces. One in a fabric, a very sheer fabric, to go under this to show through the lacy holes, and the same here as well. And what else did I do? Now I cut around the edge of the shape all the way around here, and I didn't cut the center shapes out because it would have been too fiddly and it might have risked ripping the background fabric, so I left that. But I've placed these exactly where they should go on top. What else did I do? I've just pinned it all in place now, and it's ready to tack. Now when I tack, I'm just going to do what you'll usually do now, which is our custom, just big stitches, just clipping the edges of all these. Okay, not going to waste time going from one all the way around the edges. We're just going to clip it, and then it will be time to start thinking about the stitches. I'm going to use our regular stitches, and I think I might use the raised chain band. I know there was quite a reaction to that one, from it's too hard and too I really like this, but if you could just persevere with it, it's a fabulous stitch. So I've now done the tacking, as you can see, and it's running through the pieces, just clipping them. So that was quite easy, it didn't take very long at all. So they're all in place. Now what I'm going to do is a slow stitch around all the shapes here. I'm not sure at this point whether I'm going to fill them in, but I'm definitely going to start with a small running stitch around the edge of all of them. And the colours I've chosen are going to be blue. I'm taking the pink out, but they're going to be predominantly blue because I like the blue in the picture here. So I'd like the same effect with the blue on the shapes, just like the blues on the negative shapes here. I'd like to bring that blue over onto these negative shapes. Now why I've added these two, because at some point the blue is going to need to have another colour introduced, and at the moment I'm thinking of these two, so that is why those are in with the blues. So I'm going to put those on one side. Now at this moment I'm thinking ahead, and what I'm thinking of is that this is the original. Right, now let me find it. I think it goes that way. That is the positive shape there, but I'm thinking of moving this around maybe this way, because it's the same length, possibly moving it that around and making more shapes around here. because this is just a whole lot of shapes here, and I think I might do that by using the positive shape a different way round. That will be after the slow stitch, but I'm playing with that idea at the moment. So when you're doing your designing, remember that the photograph is just your inspiration. You can change it at any time. You can add bits or take bits away, or as I'm doing here, moving it. It's still the same inspiration. It's still Moor Street Station, but it's my interpretation. So here's the first one, and it took about 5 seconds. I used a very long needle. Let me see if I can just make that a little bit bigger for you. You see the length of that needle? Long needle, a very sharp point here, very sharp there, and quite a nice large eye, but it's nice and thin for going in and out of all these layers. It's lovely. 3 strands and a knot in the back, and as usual, just through from the back, and our small running stitches all the way around this. Now if I were to do this again, while I was sewing that, I thought I wouldn't cut out this shape from the background. What I would do, I would put the background down like I have here, and then cut these shapes out and place them. So if you can see here where I've cut the shape out there was no need to do that. I could have just left the background a complete piece and then place these on top. So fortunately I didn't cut these out. I didn't cut that one out, but I've cut these smaller ones out, like here, if you can see it there. Let me make that bigger so you can see what I mean. Yeah, if you can see there, it didn't actually solve anything by cutting them out, because I could just have easily have placed that, use this as the template. Which way round is that? That way round. Just use that as the template and just place that in the cutout here, like I have done there. So another time I wouldn't cut out those shapes. I would just put the background down and then apply the shapes on top. So anyway, having said all that, just in and out with the stitch all the way around. It's up to you how big or how small you make the stitch. You can make some long, some short. The last few stitches coming up. Oh, right through that sequin. I'm going to secure that sequin. Right, last few stitches, and they've all been sewn down. So just take that through to the back and just over sew that a little bit, and it's time now to take the tacking out. So let me just straighten that up. Let's start here. I'm just going to break this in several places, and that's the tacking out. So where are we? That is my guide there, that knot, in case you wonder why the knot is there. That is my guide. So that knot tells me which way up, and that is the right way for me. So there we go. Yeah, I'm not disappointed with that. Yeah. Now, as you can see, the point I was making about doing this, applying these shapes through this on a background that hasn't been cut out. Look, can you see what's happened here? So if I'd left this hole and just applied these shapes on top, obviously that wouldn't have happened. I mean, it's okay because it will be held down anyway, but it's just going to make it a little bit more difficult to sew across there. So I might now have to just tack that down, or actually start edging that. But for the time being, that is as far as I've got. Now this is where I might turn that up. Oh, that is the right way, isn't it? That way. So just turn it this way to get some more shapes. Turn it that way. So I'm going to have a little play around with all this. Right, before I carry on with Moor Street work, I'm just going to show you these pieces very quickly. These pieces of fabric here, and they're all really gorgeous, and they came with this please take free of charge, and it was from Glenn Leader. Hello Glenn. Glenn's a regular. You might have seen his name on the comments and on the Facebook group. He's a regular contributor to the comments, and he does quite a lot of craft work, painting himself. Once again, this is the second lot of fabric that he sent. If you remember, some time ago I showed you fabric, and I've just found a tiny piece on the desk here, and that was from one of his pieces that he actually saved a whole lot of fabric from being put in the skip at the high street. It's not too far actually from where I live. That's how he actually dropped these round. He knocked on the door with them. It's the second time he's done that, and I am so grateful, Glenn. I know I wasn't here at the time to take them in. A neighbour took them in for me, so thank you very much, Glenn. I really do appreciate this, and I expect I'll see you around town as usual. So thank you, and perhaps I even owe you a coffee for this second lot. But look at this, that is just desperate to be woven through, and as you can see here, they're blinds. It's from a curtain shop who's just dumped them outside for this really lovely sign, and unfortunately Glenn just happened to be passing. Which is strange, because I must ask him why he always happens to be passing that particular shop. I do know that high street, and I'm not sure there's much going on at the end of it. But anyway, I just thought a big shout out to Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. Keep up the comments on Facebook and YouTube, and just, you can certainly keep up the donations. Thank you. Anyway, back to some work. Well, it's not work actually, is it? It's fun. Back to some more fun. So all sewn down now, all done. I've put it on the wall for overnight for a good 12 hours or so, and I've had a look. I've gone out. That's how I miss Glenn. I went out, came back, chat, and so I've come in with fresh eyes, and I have decided to carry on with what I suggested not so long ago. So the idea was to now turn the template upside down. Now this is the way that it goes, the original way. Sorry, I'm doing this and I'm not thinking properly. Right, I'm concentrating on that. Right, that is the way that the first part, the applique pieces here, went. So they've all fitted in nicely into these spaces here. Yeah. So this now comes over here like so. So if I look back there, yeah, that's lovely. Now I'm just going to put some pins in around the edge. Now as you can see, this is the frame, that's the edge of here. Okay, see the edge there. So I'm going to do this exactly as I did the last one. I'm going to pop some pins in this, and then I should draw around it to get the shape. There are now enough pins in there just to hold it in place while I draw around the shape. Now it doesn't matter how hard I press on here because it's pencil, so the lead isn't going to be pulled through to the right side. This isn't going to be washed, and the pencil mark won't be seen on the front. So all the way around the shape, and you need a nice sharp pencil for this. All done. Now take the pins out, and there should be a nice pencil line to follow with your needle and tacking thread. So the needle that we've been using all the way through, just one strand of thread, could be ordinary sewing thread, it doesn't matter because this will be pulled out. Now I'm going to go round the pencil line. You can see the pencil line on there quite clearly now. I'm just going to do it from this side, and it will come out on the front. So I want not. It didn't take me long to realise that if the stitches didn't come out on the screen, they weren't actually going to be seen on the back. So I have changed the colour of the thread to a bright orange. I've just finished off the last square now, and look, that's better. That is far better. It's clear. I did leave some of the stitches in there, the grey stitches, and I've gone over them, and you can't see them. There's one there, but they're not very visible. So this is now how this goes, right, that way. Lovely. So that's the right way, and so that, turn it over, and there we go. So there are the shapes. Lovely. So just need to remember that it's that way. Lovely. Smashing. Now by doing that, it's broken up the area even further, but it's hopefully it should still form a composition because we still have the same shapes. Although these shapes have been appliqued, hopefully these shapes will be mirrored over here in some way. If not, it doesn't matter at this stage, because all these little areas now I've created more shapes for more stitches. So I'm going to make a start on slow stitching these, possibly in blue. I'm not sure yet what colour. So this is it now. As you can see, I've used a purple here, and I like the purple because it sticks out quite a lot. I'm still not happy with the amount of spaces that I have here. Quite large spaces here and along here. I think I still need to break that down into smaller shapes. So what I've decided to do is place this for a third time, and I'm going to do it this way this time. So far I've used it twice, this way, that way, and then that way. So this time I'm going to move it round this way, and I really want to hit this area, so I think I'm going to bring that down there. And what I'll do this in exactly the same way as I did before. I'll do this from the back and then see what happens. So I should pop this onto the back and then draw around it as before, tack it, and then start sewing it around the tacking, where the tacking is. So I finished the third placement here, which is just as well, because I don't think that's going to take much more. I think that's probably come to the end of its life. So I stick that over the side. So I think now there's enough shapes and lines around, well, all over really. Now I'm going to start applique and surface stitchery. Got some really nice lace here. I might use that, and this lace has sequins already on it, so that is really pretty. Now the threads I'm going to use the blue threads, and I'm going to introduce some pink as well. Now I found some other fabric, this fabric here, and it is really pretty. There's a gold thread going through it, and this is all I had. If you can see just that piece there, this is all I had with what you can see here. So I've had to use it quite sparingly, but it is really very pretty. Now initially I cut the length of that, a band, in fact that's part of it, the whole length down there, but it looked too solid, so I've cut it into blocks, just like here. That's all in blocks, so I've cut mine into blocks as well. I've done the same here, this side, for these, so they're blocked as well, and down here. So I've now got a representation, if you like, of the blue sky shining through. So there's my blue sky shining through. Once again, the whole piece of this was interfaced before I cut it out. So when I cut each piece out, they're interfaced. These would have been far too small to interface them at that size. At the moment, this very moment, I'm planning on using the raised chain band, because this is ideal, as I mentioned earlier, for raised chain. So I'd like to pop it here, and if you can see this fabric, I'm just going to make this bigger. This fabric that I've used here actually has a ladder effect. You see this, depending on which way you turn it. Turn it this way though, and you have a ladder effect. So I have the ladder effect down here. Now I'm going to use our normal stitches. All these stitches, the normal stitches, are in the refresher stitch book, and I'll put the link here when I edit this. But I'm just going to show you now a little refresher of how to do the raised chain band, because this is brand new, and I know some, i.e. me when I started, are finding this difficult, but it's such a lovely stitch, so do persevere with it. So I'm just going to lay down some foundation stitches. So I've got a nice knot in the back, and I'm just coming across from the bottom, and I'm going to work my way up to the top. I'll do 4 or 5 because we did have a demonstration before, and this will probably need to go in a new stitch refresher book. So let's do so at the top we come through above the top foundation, through here, needle underneath on the left, whoops, on the left like so, thread down there, needle now to the right of the center, down into that loop, and there is your first chain stitch. So we do that again, needle underneath on the left, pull it over on the right, thread down over on the right, pull it, second chain stitch. So needle over again, underneath on the left, pull it, thread down over to the right, needle in that loop and pull it, and you can see the chains taking shape nicely. Over to the left and under, thread down, needle down from the right into that loop and pull it, and the last chain, thread down, needle under, thread down, needle down on the right, and there you go. There you have your raised chain band, and once you get the hang of it, believe me, you're going to love it. And then you will just finish that off the same way that you'd finish any stitch off at the back. The tacking's now been done in the orange thread on all the blue pieces. I've removed the pins, so now it's ready to start our stitching, and I'm going to start with the raised chain band, and I'm going to start with this piece here, and this is just an ideal width to do this. So I'm going to start at the bottom here, and just like the example, the demonstration, I'm going to put in the foundation lines from here all the way to the top, evenly. So in actual fact, that blue piece has been couched down. That's a way of couching a thread or a piece of fabric to another piece of fabric. So back to the raised chain. So we're now going to come in at the top, slightly above but in the center, thread down, over we go, underneath on the left. I'm just going to make that bigger. So underneath on the left, thread down, over to the right, needle down underneath, and that's the first chain. So thread down, over to the left, underneath the foundation, pull it up, thread down, over to the right, and needle down through the loop, and that's the second chain. And there we have it. That's the first raised chain band done. I thought I was going to have to change my needle halfway through because the point kept picking up some of the thread, stranding the thread and picking up the background fabric, but I've just managed to get to the end of that. But I'm going to change my needle now to carry on with the others. So that's that one done. I'm now going to start these smaller ones. So I've just finished this just now, and I can see I've forgotten to take the tacking out, so I need to take the tacking out along underneath here. Oh look, I'm pulling them up now. I'll take that out later. Now I've had a look and I can see that it's a little bit unbalanced at the moment with the blue. If we look at this here, it's nicely balanced. But what I did deliberately too, because I like that shape there, which is here, I deliberately didn't do this as blue. I wanted to expose that shape, but also I didn't want to cover up this lacy bit here. So I actually moved the blue to where this is, there. Now I think if I had stuck to this, the reason I liked it and played around with it in the beginning, there would have been a balance, because this blue would have been there, and that would have made all the difference to the balance. So what I have to do now is think about how to balance this area up along there. Now I could do that by moving the blue over there, some more of this along there, which is feasible, which I might do, but I could also do that by introducing a little bit of darkness. Just for argument's sake, I just pick this up on the side, and if I put something dark along there, it would balance up, it would provide some balance. Yeah, I think that actually needs something over there, maybe something dark, because there's so much blue here. I think if I put that same colour here, it might not actually provide what I'm looking for, but I think something maybe dark would do. So that is another option. Now what I also want to do is introduce another colour. Once again, this is just sitting on the side. I want to put some colour in some of these little boxes. Now they're all squares or rectangles, so it's made it quite easy. So the next thing to do is, not necessarily with this piece, it's just there, is add another colour to contrast with the blue and the green. So that suggests contrast, complementary colours. Complementary colour of green is red, and the complementary colour of blue is orange. So it might possibly be one of those colours. So I'm going to start thinking about how to apply fabrics to these little boxes here, and the surface stitchery to go with it. So that is my next step, and I'm going to work on that now. To provide the balance, I've used rug canvas here and here and here, and I've placed it over some blue material. This is the canvas that I bought just like this in a charity shop, and it's printed. There's a pattern on there, but I've no idea what it is, and they're just areas of colour. So I've cut some of the pink out and placed it over the dark blue. I did originally put the dark blue right the way along there, and it looked too heavy, and it didn't actually balance it. It made it, it further unbalanced it. So I've put them evenly spaced like that to provide a balance, and I think that might have worked. I've put some pink along here to reflect the windows. Where's my picture gone? Yeah, I've put some pink here, and I think it's just adding something. It's just bringing out the pink bits here. Now, I just felt it needed another colour to be introduced. So I've added these, and it's a very nice fabric. It's from this, and it's like dragonfly wings, if you can see that. It's really beautiful, and that was a gift. So I've used just tiny bits of that to catch the light there and there, and I think just by having the two there and there, it pulls it together. I think it's being pulled together now. I've got a little bit of lace here, blue lace that matches the blue there. I haven't pinned it yet because I'm not sure whether it's staying, but I think it probably do. This actually looks better looking down on the table than it does on the screen. Yeah. So what I've decided, I've picked this up from the edge of the table, which was staring me in the face, and it's a roll of net. And I think at this stage I'm just going to cover up the whole area a couple of times just to mute all the colours, like so. I'm just going to make the screen a little bit bigger. So I'm going to mute all the colours. You see that, take away all the brightness. Doing some weaving on the foundation stitches on the race chain band. I did a couple here. I did a couple there. I'm not sure I like the look of when it's more than one. I like this singular look. But anyway, so that's as far as I am now. I haven't actually tacked these in or sewn them down yet. I'm going to do that all in one go. I'm going to carefully put the netting over, remove the pins, and then pin this down in place. Now, while I was doing the weaving, I've had a change of plan. I think I'm just going to put the net down just to take the glariness off the colour, and use probably just two. So I'm overlapping them in the middle, so it's just a little bit the effect is just a little bit deeper, a little bit darker there, and I don't think it's coming out on the screen. I'm just going to make that. Yeah, it's not actually coming out too well on there, is it? I'll lift that up. Right, you can see the net now. You see the net here. Now, the original plan was to use this and move it around and make more shapes. I'm not going to do that because I had a thought, and I think I might actually be making too many shapes by twisting the template round. I might be making too many shapes, small shapes, which will mean I'm going to lose our initial inspiration, which is, let's have a look. Now, at this stage, I think it's easier to revert back to the black and white one. And that way, I'm just going to make this smaller now. And by using this one, it just makes it a little bit clearer with the shapes, because it's sort of just black and white. It's making it just a little bit clearer. So I don't really want to make any more shapes than I've got here. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to start tracing some of the shapes in stitching. Stitches that I've used on here, cross stitch here and here. There might be a row cross stitch somewhere else that I can't see. But also herringbone, possibly my all-time favourite stitch. Although now this one is a real contender, the raised chain. Feather stitch, I love feather stitch as well. Here, and of course the running stitch along here, securing the rug canvas down in place. And I've just gone through each hole there, each box. Now, not sure if you can see, but there is the net there. The net has completely covered this area. Now sometimes, as I've said before, best way to get a look at your work is to get a frame and just frame parts of it, and by doing that you actually get a good picture or a good idea of what might need enhancing or eliminating. Although at this stage we don't actually like to eliminate, but that's entirely up to you. So yeah, these here, see, with the frame on, these here are really still jumping out. So I might have to do something just to tone these down at all. Not sure yet, because I still need to do some French knots and some beads and work some surface stitchery. So the next part that I'll do is some of these areas here. I'll fill these in with stitches or beads or French knots, but I don't want to fill them all in because we need to keep the contrast between busy, busy, busy and light relief, plain against the highly patterned. The surface stitchery is almost done now. I filled in a lot of areas with the running stitch. In fact, I've outlined a lot of this in running stitch with red and brown. Didn't introduce any more colours, just for the red and the brown. The frame is there just to give you an idea of what it will look like when it's finished. So I'll take the frame off. I haven't introduced any beads yet or the French knots. I'm going to do that now. But I think I'm going to call that finished now. It's quite a long way from the inspiration of Moor Station in Birmingham. That was the inspiration and the coloured version. So it is a long way. I wonder what the man in the cafe would say if I took that in and said, this is what I could see when I had my afternoon tea over there in the chair. He'd probably think I'd gone mad. But anyway, as I said, it is finished now. I put some beads here. I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger. That's it. The beads haven't come out too well on the screen. Right, the beads here. I've put beads down here as well. Let me put that in the center. I hope it's not making you dizzy. Right, and there are beads down here and along there, and some more here. Down here I've put some French knots. Over this side there's some fly stitch along here, fly stitch there and here. And the reason these are yellow here, it's not yellow, is it? Here, here and here, is because it just happened to be on my desk here, and I thought I'm going to use that. So there was no thinking how it was going to marry up with everything else. I just used it. The same with that green. Oh, and these two greens in cross stitch here, here, and one single cross there. I'm going to stretch it overnight. So just a quick demonstration of how to stretch this. So I've wetted this tea towel. You see the clean tea towel here. I've wetted that. It could be clean paper, but I'm using the tea towel. I've placed the tea towel on a box lid, cardboard box lid. And you can see here all the pins sticking through there. So I've just put that on there. Now I've put the work on top and I've stretched it out on the wet tea towel, and I'm quite happy now that that's all stretched out as much as it can do, and you can see it just pulls it into shape all the way around the edge. And then with a little bit of water, I'm just going to wet the front as well, and then let that dry overnight, and it will dry stretched and it will be in shape. So if any time you're sewing it's too thick to iron but you think you've pulled it out of shape, that's all you have to do. Leave it overnight, and then in the morning you'll look at it and it'll all be dry and it'll be in a nice shape. So I'm going to take the pins out now. So this is quite a revelation. Oh, oh, it's quite stuck in. So that is now ready to be bagged. I've chosen the backing fabric, and this is what I've chosen. It's the whole length, and that's where it finishes, but I've added about 3 inches there. I'd say 3.5 inches there, and I've turned up the bottom of it. I've neatened the bottom, and what I'm going to do is bring that up like so, and this will make 2 pockets. So I'm just going to cut this out, and then it'll be ready to machine sew now. And I'm going to turn that over, so we've now got right sides to right side, and I'm going to pin this all the way around. Where are they? Now you might want to tack it, or you might not. Now we need to work out where the pocket is. Now pin this down like so. Make sure you pin that down, the edge of the pocket, and the same there. Make sure they're pinned down flat, otherwise the sewing might crinkle them up a little bit, and you'll end up with a little bit of a mess there. So we know they're nice and flat now, so we can carry on pinning. Right, so I've pinned all the way around the edge here, but at one of the sides here I've left that much open. So when I sew, I'm going to sew from here, this is the side, across the pocket, up the length of the other side, across the top, and down again to that pin. So on one of the sides you'll leave about 3 inches open, and that is so we can pull this into the right side. So I'm going to do this on the sewing machine, although you can do this by hand. So that's been machine sewn all the way around the edge. I'm just going to trim some of this bulk off because it's quite thick. So I'll trim, and then through the gap here we're going to pull it through. And there we are, managed to pull it right the way through. That was quite difficult because it's very thick. So here it is, pulled through, lying flat. Next thing to do is to sew up the sides of the seam here. So I'm going to push the 2 edges in together. The raw edges are now inside, and I'm going to pin them together to make the sewing easier. Now you can actually tack across the pins if you feel happier doing it that way. I'm not going to tack, I'm just going to do an oversew stitch just across the gap there. The oversew stitch is just as it sounds. It goes over the top of the edge from one side to the other. So here it is now finished. That's the back opened up, and while I was sewing the inside I thought that would be quite nice to stuff as it is with the back and the front, and make some sort of cushion from it, even a wedding ring cushion. So that is quite nice as it is. But anyway, there's the inside, and the sewing's been done at the side. So that is now ready for a notebook. Now I bought these some time ago, and they're actually ready-made notebooks like this. So all I've done, because it was a nice length, and that was a pure coincidence that should be the same length, I've just taken out one of the insides, taken the cover off, and I've just narrowed the pages. I trimmed the pages along here to make it fit this. I'm just going to make that screen a bit smaller because it seems to be jumping about at the moment. Right, there we go. So I've just trimmed these to make sure they fit inside, because had I left them as wide as they were, it would have been too wide for the cover. So those will go inside, but before I do that, this is going to be the closure. A little piece of very, very pretty ribbon here. I'm going to fold that in half and marry up this, the fold here, with the fold there. So I'm just going to put that here, and that, just eyeball that a little bit for there. I'm just going to put a pin there to hold it down. Actually, I should put a pin here to hold that down, and one the other side, because I'm going to sew across there, so I don't really want a pin there. So 2 pins now either side of the fold to hold that in place there. Now the book, or the pages for the notebook, going to go inside, and I've left the original manufacturer's stitches there, they're no problem. So now marry up the folds together, the fold of the cover and the fold here, so we have this, about the same amount of fabric around the top and at the bottom, and I'm going to machine sew that in place. You can do this by hand, but I'm going to do mine by machine. Here we are, finished. I've machine sewn along over the manufacturer's sewing. It's just strengthened it all the way along, but you can do a pamphlet stitch yourself or running stitches along there. Each page is nicely folded, there are no tears there. I'm quite pleased with that. It lies nice and flat as well. I could have done some printing on each page, it did cross my mind, but I thought I'd leave it. The pockets take my pens nicely, and the ribbon as well, it's secure and it does up nicely as well. In fact, there's enough to go round twice, but I'm only going to tie the ribbon once. And they are, and that's done. I hope you enjoyed doing that, and I will speak to you on Facebook very shortly, and look forward to hearing from you. Do keep the comments coming in, because I really do enjoy looking at them. So take care, and do have a go at the raised chain band, you'll love it.